Welcome back to the channel. This week we've got a really loud car. This week at our loft conversion we have got a massive week. The stairs are going in, the floor's going down, we've got another steel to go in, we've got the roof going on. It's going to be huge. Let's go.
So the old rafters are 75 mil, which you can't buy that off the shelf. So me and Marv are going to have to rip about 20 mil off of a 4x2. And that'll fit lovely.
So the boys have come back from build base and Sammy's used his flash new rack on the top of his van, and now they need to cut about 20 mil off this new timber, which we've bought slightly oversized, in order to match in to the same size as the old rafters. Now they're all cut to size, we can load them up and the boys can start spacing them out. One of the things we're doing slightly differently on this roof is it's having two Velux windows. Now the Velux windows needs to be spaced out appropriately so that they look good from the inside. So we need to make sure that we allow appropriate bracing and spacing for the new Veluxes to go in. The two bits of timber that are running horizontally, that's going to be the location for the new Velux. And it's a bit hard to see in this shot, but you can see the one on the other side. Now that we've got all the rafters in, it's time to get the roof covered so that we can move on to the next step. Some of you may have noticed from the last episode, we've installed the ladders on the gable end ready to pick up the soffits and fascias. That's gonna be the next step, and we have to do that before we can start roofing. One of the other things we need to do is strip the old roof from the little ridge on the front of the house. Some of the eagle-eyed viewers will notice that there's no longer black plastic, it's now been replaced by a breathable membrane. Now this is the membrane that lives under the roof, and what the boys have done here is they've laid it out loosely in something called scatter battened. That's for the roofers so that when they get here they can lay their batten spacings out.
Right, everything going well at the loft conversion. We've got the breathable membrane on. Last few tweaks down here. Bolting these rafters to the new rafters to the old. Soffit and fascia. Got these barge boards on. Well, we got one of those barge boards on, I should say, but the other one's about to go on and then ready to be slated. So next thing you'll see will be a load of slates coming up here, hopefully.
So like what Sammy said, it's now time to put the soffits and fascias on. The product that we're using here is a UPVC board, which is most commonly used in the UK. The soffit is the bit that runs horizontally and the fascia is the bit that runs vertically. You can see Marv cutting some of the stuff down there on the drop saw. That there is going to tidy up those ladders, and you can see Sammy and Marv here. It tidies the end up, it puts the box on, and that black thing that you can see sitting along the side there, that is the over the fascia vent. That's a really important part to make sure that the roof breathes. Now that the guys have got the box section on the front sorted, it's time for Sammy to start moving to the back. What you can see here is Sammy doing the same box section, just on the rear elevation. One thing that we didn't quite think about though, is we've got to get another steel in. So here's Sammy to tell you about what his thought process is over the next wee while.
So we got one bit of the fascias done, we got the box detail done. It's getting a little bit late in the day to be unsheeting stuff and sheeting stuff back up, so we've got plenty other stuff to do. We're going to try and get the steel in for the flitch beam. It's basically going to come in through over there where that daylight is, and we'll pull it right in, because it'd be an absolute nightmare if that roof gets tiled in and we haven't got a hatch. We'll have to get it in through this window, which, yeah, that'll be a bit of a game.
Now that we've got a bit of a change of plan, it's time for Sammy and Marv to start loading these timbers up for the floor. So this timber is significantly bigger than what's there at the moment. These are 8 inches by 3 inches thick. They're really big, heavy bits of wood. So they've loaded that up, and then now they can cut a hatch in the front of it, and they can actually bring the what's called a flitch beam up through the hole that they've just created. In order to do this, what the guys are doing is just laying some scaffold boards down so that we've got somewhere nice and stable to walk while we're bringing in this big bit of metal. Pop it over to one side, and then we can have a bit of a chat about what this beam is actually going to be used for.
Right, we've moved inside for the time being. We're just trying to get this steel webbed out. Marv's just making a new hole at the end so we can get a bolt on the end of our webbing as well. And then hopefully we'll be able to get some floor joists in.
This is really important because we need to install our joist hangers for our floor. We need something to nail those joist hangers to. And obviously you can't nail into metal, so we install and bolt through a piece of timber, and then that gives us something to fix the joist hangers to.
All right, Martin's just down there cutting all the floor joists to length. How are we getting on by?
12.
That's 12? All right, chuck them up here then. Loft conversion's coming along nicely. We got the roofers in today. We got a bit of sunshine. Me and Marv are going to be inside in this dusty pit, clearing out the old insulation, getting some joist hangers on and getting the floor joists in, ready for the Sparky and the plumber tomorrow to come and do their little bits. We just had a delivery this morning as well. Just these joist hangers, extra heavy duty. Floor joists are getting suspended from that steel, so give it the maximum amount of strength. I wanted the longest ones that you could get and couldn't get these anywhere in town, so I had to order them next day delivery, but they come 8:10 this morning, so that worked out all right. All right, let's get cracking.
Here are the boys putting in the joist hangers on the new steel that we've installed. This supports one end of the new floor joist. Once we've got that side in, you can see the guys put in the joist hangers on the other end. It's a bit of a wrist breaker, these ones, because they have about 20 nails in them each, and you have to put a nail in every single hole. So what you can see old Marv here is banging all the nails in, getting them exactly where they need to be. Then we can fold, cut, and we're ready to start installing some timbers. The boys have done a final clear out of all the insulation. What Sammy's doing here is putting some battens onto our new ceiling rafters. This is to support that bit of timber that is running perpendicular to the way the floor joists are going to go. We can make some small cuts, which you can see Sammy doing now, and this allows us to slot our new floor joist into it with the batten supporting both ends. Now the reason why we do this is to try and prevent as much cracking in the ceiling of the first floor bedrooms. Sammy gets his laser out, pings the next line, makes sure everything is square and true. And the boys take their time. Once it's all supported, they can then remove the battens. Everything is supported by our new floor joist. So now that we've got a few floor joists in, it's a good opportunity for the boys to bring up some of the tongue and groove flooring and give themselves a nice flat surface to work off. There's still a little bit more that we need to get done on the floor, but it starts to get a little bit technical now because we're working our way towards the new opening for the staircase, which will be the access up into our new bedroom.
Good morning. We got the boys in today. Come to fit some cables for us, get us a temporary socket up here. We got floor joists down, we've got something to walk on. Martin can jump about now a little bit more, so he's much happier. We're going to bolt this steel and these timbers together to make a flitch beam, get that in to pick up the staircase. Plumber was in yesterday, he's plumbed in the soil pipe. So when he plumbs that in, that's a direct link now down to the sewage system, so it gets a bit smelly up here. So we normally block that up. What did we block it up with yesterday, Marv?
Your t-shirt.
My t-shirt. I gave him a rubble sack, I said block this up.
So I grabbed the nearest thing, what was your t-shirt?
Yeah, I went to get my t-shirt, I was like, where's my t-shirt? He goes, oh,
I stuck it in the pipe.
there was a black bit of material up there. It's gone in the soil pipe.
Now's the time to start putting all of the services in. So we had the electricians here in the last episode. They were just sorting out the basics of it. Now we've got them back again so that they can start running some cables, which is going to mean that we're going to be able to push forward with things like laying the floor down. Whilst the guys have been doing that, we've had a surprise visit from the building inspector. Always welcome on any of our sites. And what you can see here is Sammy and Kate running through exactly what we need to do in regards to insulation, in regards to the thermal properties. And she is inspecting to make sure that we have built to the right codes. Now the building inspector comes around periodically throughout the build This is largely around making sure that everything is compliant with current building regulations. Luckily for us, everything was done exactly like it's meant to. We've had a big green tick, and then we'll see the inspector later on in the build once all of the insulation is in.
Next up, we're going to try, and I say try because I don't know how successful we'll be, but we're going to see if we can put this flitch beam together. It's two 8x3s, which aren't light, and then this steel, which isn't light. Because even though it's thin, it's floppy, so you end up fighting against it. So, but I might have had a clever idea of how we get that in, but we'll see how it goes.
What you can see the guys doing here is getting prepared for the install of the flitch beam. Now what that is the bit of metal goes in between those two bits of timber, and that creates rigidity in order to support for the opening of the staircase. What Sammy's doing is leveling up and putting the locations of where the flitch beam needs to sit. Now it's really important that we get this right, because this beam is what supports our new staircase. A couple of the challenges that we're facing is getting the original ceiling joist of the original house to marry into what we've done with our new timbers. What you can see the guys doing here is trying to remove the old rafter without damaging the ceiling. Now it's a bit of a game. We wanted to try and take it out in one piece, but as you can see here, we couldn't get that done. So Sammy ended up cutting down into little pieces so that we could get it out bit by bit.
So we've got that plate in, we're happy with the height, that's all good. This side needs a little bit of a tweak, but we'll get that done. The main issue is this old loft hatch, because our flitch beam needs to come right through here. So we've got to try and get this hatch out without disturbing underneath too much. Quick coffee, quick toot, and then have a think.
So there's a few last minute preparations that need to be done to the loft hatch to make sure that when we install our beam, it's absolutely perfect. And this bit here that you can see Sammy carving out is in the way. So he gets his multi-tool and his chisel, bit of hard graft, gone.
I've done loads of talking through about this flitch beam, and then when Pete and Marv started putting it together, they didn't record anything.
I did.
After about halfway through, that's the beam I've been talking about. It's magically in one piece now. You won't see anyone putting that together.
So as the guys have been talking about, this thing is pretty heavy. So like with most beams, it's get a whole bunch of men on it, get it the right way up so that the crown of the timber is facing up, and then it's a case of methodically lowering it into position bit by bit to make sure it goes in exactly the right spot. Now this might look like it's really, really easy, but this is what happens when you prepare and plan really well. What the guys have done is managed to get one end of that beam sitting perfectly on the joist hanger, and now it's just a case of sliding it slightly forward, and then the other end drops down exactly where it's meant to be. Well done team, good work.
Flitch beams in, and we're just going to start insulating. So to meet fire regulations, we've got to put chicken mesh down first, and then the insulation on top of the chicken mesh. And then if there's a fire, I guess that stops red hot insulation dropping on your face. So that wouldn't be very nice, would it, Marv?
No, it wouldn't.
So yeah, nice fluffy dusty job for us today.
So as Sammy said, we don't want any hot, fluffy, dusty, fire-ridden insulation falling on your face. So the chicken mesh goes down first, pretty simple process. The biggest challenge here is getting yourself somewhere stable to work. We tend to do it in sections. So you'll lay out all of the mesh, then all of the insulation, then a bunch of boards. That gives you somewhere nice and flat. You can stand up, give your knees a bit of a break. Then you go again on the other half of the room.
So we got a nice deck down over there. And just had a little think, well, a little idea. I'm going to try and put these double trimmers in out of 6x2 instead of 8x2, and then it will sail over the existing ceiling rafters down below, ceiling joists, and we shouldn't have to disturb anything down there. We can get our doubles in, and then we can think about insulating, and once that's done, get our stud walls built.
So what you can see the guys doing there is putting, as Sammy called, the double trimmers. That there sets the opening for the new staircase. So we've got the flinch beam, as he calls it, on one side, and then we've got our double trimmers running perpendicular to that. Now that the double trimmers are installed, we can finish off doing our insulation and obviously then move on to fitting our decking, which forms the substrate for the new floor.
Right, so we got that meshed out, insulated, because then we can glue and nail some floorboards down. Once this is glued down, we'll get a nice little tool storage area, and then we'll finish the rest off. Kieran's been in, got that batten, got loaded up, got the Veluxes in. So that's taking shape. Me and Marv are gonna try and stay ahead of him. So we got to come round this side, finish this skirt off, so that once he's battened the front elevation, he'll come around here, batten this off, and then he'll start on the dormer. So me and Marv have got a little bit of a game, because we got to try and get this back up level and then extend these and bolt them into there. So today we're going to build this dwarf wall underneath that purlin. You might notice we originally had that propped up, but we tried to jack it level because it had sagged. We jacked it too high. So we took that wall out, and now it's settled with the weight of the slate back to where it needs to be. So we can build that under side of that dormer. That needs a wall building underneath it to support it long term. And then we'll get some trimmers or some noggins in anywhere where any of our internal walls are going to meet. Oh, remember to like and subscribe and click the bell.
As you guys would have seen in the last episode, the weight of the slates have a really big impact on where the rafters sit. What I mean by this is, as the weight comes on, the pressure goes downwards and pushes the timber towards the ground. What the guys have done here is they needed some weight to go onto the purlin so that it can sit in a more natural position, and then we can construct the supporting wall underneath it, which will transfer the weight of the slates down through the purlin onto our new steel that we've installed. How we do this is we glue a base plate onto the steel using a polyurethane based glue. Then we can put the base plate on, and then we can build the timber supports running up off that base plate underneath the purlin. As you can see here, it's a fairly repetitive task. Start at one end, move down to the other end, same process all the way through. Whilst we've had all the cameras going inside, this is what's been happening outside. The guys from J Glen Roofing have come over, absolute legends, beautiful man-made slate roof. You can see it, start at the bottom, get all your felt support trays on, then it's run the rows up, GRP gully in, flashing around the Velux, and we end up with a beautiful looking roof.
Marv, what have they been up to out there? So yeah, boys at Josh Glen Roofing have done bang up job counter battening it. So when you put the slate on, you've got to counter batten it because you need airflow behind the slates, and obviously the slates are fixed along that axis. If it was cladded, you just need the verticals, but in this case it's a crosshatch of batonnier. This side's more or less done. Oh yeah, they just left themselves, leave that bit there, it's a little walkway for them to get up and do the lead work. Ridge to go on once they finish the other side. So yeah, all coming together now. In the dry, we've got a nice little bit of deck in there for some storage, some organisation. We can start thinking about insulating the walls, plasterboard in, and that's that. So the day has finally come for the big cutout. Client's gone away for a couple of days, so we've tried to line it up just because obviously this is going to be quite dusty. What I'm thinking I might try and do is brace it in individual sections, cut the whole lot out, and then take it out piece by piece, because it has been boarded underneath the lath and plaster. So I'm hoping that new sheet of plasterboard is going to contain the lath and plaster as much as possible and make it a bit easier to tidy up. And there we go. One landing staircase cut out, ready to go in the skip. Barely any dust down there. So I do. A couple bits of rubble, but no, it wasn't as tidy as I thought, but I haven't got a mouthful of dust, so doing it from above seemed to work out.
Best place to think. It's pretty carnage here. So customers are back at mid-afternoon tomorrow. We've had a real big push in order to get to where we are now. And this is the hardest part of what Sammy and Marv have got to get done, is get the staircase, which is going to go up, turn, go up, turn, and go up into that. But we've got the roof on. So in order to get all of the materials up there, we have to have everything big up there now, which is what the guys are doing. And then we need to have a massive reset and clean this all around so that we can get ready to go again. It's going to be interesting.
Hi guys, it's Nicole.
What have we got here today then?
We have our pretty fab staircase arriving.
So is it in 5 sections?
12 pieces.
In 12 pieces.
It's going to be a nice little puzzling together, which is always fun. So hopefully they haven't left the instructions behind.
So, like the boys said, we've got 12 pieces. Job number 1, get them all upstairs. And then we've laid it all out as best we can so that we can get the first stringer in from the top. Now that that's in, we can then support the rest of it underneath it so that we can get the second case in and then on to the third. Now this staircase is made up of 3 main winders. So you've got the winders that come from the first floor, they turn 90 degrees, go up a straight set, turn 90 degrees, and then we're back on it again. What you can see the guys doing here is filling in the gaps of where the staircase risers have been left out at manufacture. This is to build rigidity into the staircase, and it all, after a wee while and some head scratching, really starts to take shape. Just in case there wasn't enough happening on this site, we've also got Andy from the electricians. He's come back in to start pulling through some more light cables. This is so that we can get started with boarding the ceilings, making sure that all of the lights are in the right place.
So, yeah, taking shape.
What a week that was. That was full on. We're really, really happy with how we've ended up and where it's got to. Firstly, thank you so much to our amazing customers for giving us their house. And I hope you had a nice time when you were away. To all of the boys and girls that have helped out on the build, thank you so much. To our amazing subcontractors, can't do this without you. Looking forward to next week. The inside's going to start to take focus and start to take shape. We're going to have walls going in, we're going to have some bathroom stuff, we're going to have some insulation and some plasterboarding, as well as the plastering boys coming in and making it start to look like a new house. If you've enjoyed it or learned something, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It's free, it really helps us out. We want to keep making this stuff. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you on the next one.